James at 16 will not be presented this evening, but will return next week at its regular time. Stay tuned now for a special 2-hour What Really Happened to the Class of 65.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show, but we always expand to pop culture. John Suntress here. Always happy to welcome Mr. Skin, the internet pioneer, back to Word Balloon. Skin, I always refer to a lot of us who are took advantage of the internet and create content as astronauts, and I consider myself a Mercury astronaut when it comes to podcasting because I started in 2005. But, dude, you're Chuck Yeager or whoever was before him. Test pilot wise,
like Bunny Yeager, but it's funny. I just saw your James at 16 reference, Lance Kerwin. I thought that was awesome, and it brought back memories of Kim Richards from that show. And she's now big star on the Housewives, but she did a movie in 1984 called Tough Turf, in which her character was naked, but unfortunately, it was a body double. But it brought back a lot of memories. I haven't thought about James at 16 for a long time.
This has been my obsession with all the tapeworms that put their stuff on YouTube, their old VCR stuff. I always look for these network interruptions of Bob Hope will not be seen tonight so that we may bring you. And it's great. I found James at 16. I found Enos. Remember Enos from I mean, that's the thing. Jim and I are like the same age, so we love all this stuff. And that's why. No, I truly do that to get smiles out of my guests that remember stuff like James at 15. Hey, Melissa Sue Anderson, I remember a sex scene between them at James at 15 back in the day. She was the original pilot girlfriend that, he wanted to maintain the long distance relationship with and everything.
Yeah, and that would have been after Little House on the Prairie, right? Yeah.
Or I think a couple of years after.
Little House on the Prairie was earlier in the 70s, and she did a movie called Happy Birthday to Me in 1981, where I had high hopes she would do her only nude scene, and it never happened. So it was an underwear scene. But if you're wondering, Melissa Gilbert has been nude. We could just keep going on and on.
This is why it's always great to talk to you, Jim, because exactly, I'll just throw an actress that it's like, this movie, this TV show, or body double, or no, it was real. So, it's sad but true. But you're, of course, here to talk about the 24th Annual Anatomy Awards, which is at MrSkin.com. Is this something free, Jim, or do they need the subscription to get this?
Yeah, it's completely free at the front page of MrSkin.com. And we it's a parody on the Oscars. We do it every year around Oscar time. And I can't believe this is my 24th Anatomy Awards. When I look back at the very first one I did in March of 2000, it just is so antiquated. It was just links. It was just like corny as hell. And now I have this real sophisticated tech team, design team, writers, content people. The way we capture content is light years ahead of when I did it in my little studio apartment on Ontario in Chicago. And it's just such a different presentation how we do it. We have 36 categories, but yeah, it's all free at the front page of MrSkin.com if you want to check it out or follow along, whatever.
Yeah, it's a great list, and I will let people explore some of the more salacious categories, but I do want to acknowledge some of your winners, and that, of course, includes a Lifetime Achievement Award for Marissa Tomei.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's been 30 years since she won her Oscar for My Cousin Vinny, and that's one of the reasons we chose her for the Lifetime Skin Achievement Award. And we did a whole video and presentation and in fun, but we respect her. She's in the Mr. Skin Hall of Fame. And what's interesting about Marissa Tomei is she really was not an actress that did much nudity in her 20s or 30s. It wasn't until she was in her early 40s when she did Before the Devil Knows You're Dead and The Wrestler. And I still consider those, John, the greatest over 40 nude scenes of all time. And I'm just a big fan of hers. If you could show me a better over 40 nude scene than Marissa Tomei and Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, I will happily say I'm wrong, but no one has yet. So
no, and they're great movies as well. I mean, they really are, and she really is an incredible woman that has made that transition to character actor after the ingenue period of her career and everything. Yes. And a lovely woman, absolutely, man. Of course, in the over 60 category this year, we got Emma Thompson, which is great to see.
Yeah, and it's funny. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or I've been doing this so long, but I am of the opinion and that I don't need every nude scene in movies or television to be done by a 25-year-old actress who's a former model. Do I love those scenes? Of course. But I think it's very exciting when a famous actress over 40 or over 50, or in this case, our best over 60 nude scene, Emma Thompson in Good Luck to You, Leo Grande, is does it. She hadn't done a nude scene in over 19 years. It was her first ever full frontal scene. I think she looks great. I mean, 60's the new 40. Maybe in the 70s, 1970s, the best over 60 nude scene might not look the same as it does today, but she looked awesome, and very happy to give that award for our Anatomy Awards.
Agreed. And also, I want to ask you, because certainly last year, and she's acknowledged in the awards this year, Kelly Riley from Yellowstone, lovely woman, another lovely woman that is, certainly over 30 and if not 40, beautiful woman. But are you seeing, and especially with the Oscars just happening and stuff, are there standout actors that we're paying attention to now that did do nude scenes, but obviously their careers? I mean, obviously Sydney Sweeney immediately comes to mind of a woman that has really become an it girl of the moment.
Yeah.
And certainly became aware of her through Euphoria. Everything is moving so well for her. And we'll get to Ana de Armas because I really want to explore Blonde in a second. But are there other not obvious names that you're like, hey, that's a great actress, watch out for this one?
Well, yeah, that's one of the fun things every year is when, we do this thing called Best Nudecomer. And a nudecomer to us is someone that has that wasn't known, but then did a nude scene, and because of that nude scene, they're totally on our radar and someone we're going to be following. So every year we try to award that award every year, and it's a that's an example of trying to just trying to get you to know someone that is kind of an up and comer. The winner this year was from Bridgerton. Emily Barber is our best nudecomer, but that's a great example of someone that we didn't really know too much about. Then Bridgerton became popular. She did a nude scene, and now we're like, wow, we're big Emily Barber fans, and happens all the time. Yes.
Well, and one of our mutual favorites, Andrea, or am I saying it right? Daddario? Is it Andrea?
Alexandra Daddario. Yeah, she did not win this year because she didn't really do much nudity-wise, but she is a Mr. Skin and an Anatomy Award favorite of the over 35,000 actresses at our website since for the last I'd say 8 years she's been in the top 20 consistently. She's fantastic.
We mentioned Anna de Armas earlier, and of course you acknowledge her as well. Blonde is such an interesting movie, and especially having the double honor of, in air quotes, of not only being up there for the Oscars, but also a Razzie as well.
Yeah, right. Well, listen,
let's talk about that.
We awarded her movie Blonde, where it's a biopic of Marilyn Monroe. We awarded it the Best Picture, which is our joke on Best Picture. But we don't care if, we don't care if a movie's great or not. We care if it's a mainstream film with big name stars that does a ton of nudity. And this was best. In fact, this was the first big budget NC-17 movie in quite some time, since Blue is the Warmest Color back in 2013. So you don't see NC-17 movies with stars such as Anna de Armas in them too often. And we awarded that Best Picture this year.
Yeah, and it's interesting because certainly the studios were going so hard for PG-13 over the last 15 years or so that it is kind of gutsy, although it was Netflix, obviously, that went with the NC-17. But
it's funny because people ask me, they say, it seems to me there's less nudity in the last few years than, even just 5 or 6 years ago. And we actually did an analysis of this, because this is what we do. And we counted, if you go back to just 2017, which had 677 sex scenes in movies and television, and then at our website, and then in 2017 there was about 1,650 nude scenes. That was the pinnacle. Over the last 5 years up to 2022, sex scenes have dropped 41%.
Wow.
And nude scenes have dropped 56% just from 2017. But before you panic, John, I want to point out that there's still more nudity now than there ever was when we were growing up in the 70s, 80s, or 90s.
Really?
Just with all the different platforms. I'm just saying it went from, when you think about, just for instance, Game of Thrones, when Game of Thrones came out in 2011, season 1 had 14 nude scenes, including the breakout star Emilia Clarke. And compare that in 2022 to House of the Dragon. Only one of the characters, and it was a fringe character, did a nude scene. Way less nudity in House of the Dragon versus Game of Thrones. And that's a great example. And I've thought a lot about this, and I don't know if the Me Too movement definitely probably plays a bit of a part. COVID and being close to people might have had something to do with it, but I truly believe that it has a lot to do with Gen Z and the people that actually are paying to go to movies. They do not need nudity in their films like how we did. And it sounds weird to say, but imagine if you grew up and from the second you could pick up your phone or your computer, whatever it is, you had instant access to any porn or any nudity you could see. And guys like us, we find a Sears catalog in the 70s and we were like, oh my God, look at the bra section. This is amazing. It's just we needed sex and nudity in the theater. That drove us out the door to go.
Yes.
They don't need it. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I totally understand it. But like I said, before anyone panics, just remember, even with the drop off since 2017, there's still way more sex and nudity because of all the different platforms.
I hear you, Jim. And no, honestly, I appreciate that. And again, this is why I love talking to you, honestly, Skin, is because you get this kind of information. And you're right. My God, not only everything that comes through our devices, but also, as we've discussed in other conversations as well, and as evidenced by your list this year, TV has really have become the place for a lot of nudity. But while we're talking about Game of Thrones and the other shows, I want to talk about HBO for a second, because certainly we have The White Lotus, and The White Lotus still delivers and is a very sexual show, and there are other sexual shows as well. But I saw something interesting. And this Discovery now owning Time Warner and HBO and Cinemax and all that stuff. I saw a weird headline where they were like, we're thinking about changing the name of HBO Max because it may be a turnoff to new subscribers. And I'm like, HBO is like the gold standard
Yeah.
of cable. And further, because of shows, even going back to Real Sex and some of the docu-sex shows that they've done, but certainly in their dramas and stuff, I wonder if Discovery is like, hey, can you pull back? And there's a show that I'm anticipating coming later this year, and that's The Idol.
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you, I saw the trailers for it last year. And again, it seems like a real show of the moment and a great area to explore. Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily, is the star of it. But, do you know, is there a release date yet for that show?
I do not know. I know you're right. Lily Rose Depp's going to be in it. I think Sam Levinson created it. And it's definitely HBO, but I don't know. I know about as much as you do. We haven't had any skin scouts that have been able to screen it where we know, but it's billed as the sleaziest love story in all of Hollywood. So it has potential to have a ton of really good nudity. The problem is, from what I read, it almost seemed like it was too graphic and sexy, and they're kind of a little nervous to release it. So we'll see.
Yeah, man. No, I agree with Chad over here, who says Discovery doesn't know what the HBO draw is. And I get it because, they do TV for different reasons. Discovery is all about do it yourself and a lot of that kind of programming and everything. And here's HBO with scripted drama and animation, and also facing the debt that they have. And it was so weird that it was hyped so much last year. And again, maybe they're holding it back for a fall release, or a summer release. I don't know. But it is surprising that beyond the initial trailers, we haven't heard very much about it. So,
right. But we'll see. I don't know what's going on, but believe me, it's sex sells, but not as much to Gen Z as it does to us. That's what you got to remember out of that.
But that said, Euphoria certainly was a big hit, and that was all about sex and everything.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying that it's gone. I'm just saying there's less. That's all I'm saying.
No, I hear you, man. Okay. Absolutely. I love, of course, the acknowledgement of Lily James.
Yeah.
As Pamela Anderson. Absolutely. Best prosthetics, which they are. I mean, my God, again, they sure as hell looked real, man.
Yeah, it's interesting because Lily James won for Best Prosthetics for Pam and Tommy, the Hulu series about the sex tape. And it's interesting because Lily James is not afraid of nudity. In fact, she did a movie called The Exception in 2016 where she was nude. She has great natural breasts. They're just not the robo hooters that Pam Anderson had. So for this to be realistic, to make her total look be Pam Anderson, they put these prosthetic breasts over her real breasts, and I thought it still looked great. She looked so much like Pam Anderson. So that was a fun way to get that into our Anatomy Awards for Best Prosthetics.
I completely agree, and really transformative, both Lily James as Pamela Anderson, and again, Ana de Armas, a very, a really scary, I mean, you wouldn't think, because Ana de Armas is so naturally beautiful anyway. And I think it's interesting because obviously they went heavy on the makeup with Lily and the prosthetic, and Ana, it's really subtle. But they managed to evoke Marilyn in Blonde, and
oh my God,
yeah,
no question about it. I thought she did a great job. And the thing about Blonde with Ana de Armas and all the nudity, and we voted it Best Picture, and it's not like a positive vibe movie. It's not like you walk away all happy when you see that. So
nope.
It's a little bit of a depressing one, but definitely a great nudity from Ana de Armas.
But I appreciate the frankness of it and the fact that they are taking sexual harassment so head on in a very, provocative way, that to go to the extent that the movie does to qualify for the NC-17. It isn't just glorification of nudity. It really is kind of the dark side of it. And, hey, man, we haven't seen that kind of filmmaking since the 70s, honestly, as far as that kind of brutality and being that frank.
Well, listen, you can't do a realistic biography on Marilyn Monroe and it be this sweet, happy ending. I mean, she had a tough childhood. She, was in an era where, there weren't intimacy coordinators on set. There wasn't a lot of help with mental health. You were kind of on your own, and a lot of exploitation, and just it was the way it was. That was just the era she grew up in.
Agreed. Did you watch the Oscars? What'd you think, if you did?
I saw some of it. I mean, I'm not like one of those guys that can sit, with your wife and watch the Oscars all night. I kind of pop in, watch some highlights, pop out.
Sure.
Too much sports going on, and
I know, man. It's like it's the fashionistas Super Bowl, and I respect that. But by the same token, man, did you see Hugh Grant shut down Ashley Graham on the red carpet?
Well, I mean, there's always my feeling on the Oscars is I don't need to watch it. I just need to watch the highlights because there's so much stuff. You're like, oh, when are they going to be done? When are they going to be done? But I like just to see the highlights, and I like to see what people wear and all that. So
no, I hear you, man. I a good friend of mine who writes for the Wall Street Journal. He and I were talking, and Skin, we're like the same age. When a 20-something is standing there ready to present an award and starts with Howard Hawks once said, I'm like, fuck you. You have no idea who you're talking about. Right. That is such a cue card moment. Yeah. Go away. And I am thrilled when the opposite happens and you do actually get some 20-somethings that do know their history and are really like the young people that were jazzed about doing 80 for Brady and really with all those incredible women. It's like, all right, I'm glad you get it. I'm glad you get it.
That's a good point. Like, how many people would like that's watching the Oscars knows like about the director of Rio Bravo, or you know what I'm saying? Like, how, I don't know. It's just, you're right. It was an interesting choice.
It's generational. It's fine, man. Mentioning Rita Moreno, of course, my favorite moment for her, and she doesn't take her clothes off, but she's a stripper, of course, in the James Garner movie Marlowe.
Oh wow! I'm very impressed that you know that, because she does. It's like pasties, It's like you can't really. It's not technically news, but she isn't she the only actress to win like an Emmy, a Tony, a Oscar? She has some record, something.
Yeah, she's an EGOT. I don't know the other female EGOT winners. It's crazy, Jim. I was in LA in 1983.
Okay.
And I was at Dan Tana's restaurant with my stepmother. We met her, and I was 17 and much cuter than I currently am. But she grabbed me and she kissed me, which was incredible. I'm like, wow. Man,
I love
it. All right.
One of my favorite Italian restaurants. That's old school. That's where like Don Rickles would always eat and stuff,
Well, that's why we went there, because hey, the celebrities come here. Maybe we'll see somebody cool. And we ran into Rita Moreno. It was pretty amazing. See, I always like to say that. I'm like, I was kissed by
on the Electric Company, like she's like legendary in our lives. So
come on, absolutely, man. Yes, absolutely. But no, that's a really interesting movie. And again, mentioning Emma Thompson and her nude scene and stuff, I really think, and a good friend of mine is like, God, if I had a pile of cash, I would just make movies for the senior crowd, because when it comes to going to the theater, they're not afraid. And I mean, obviously mostly the theater caters to the spectacles, the Marvel movies and and horror movies always do well. But I just know there are a bunch of seniors that are tired of being cooped up and would love to go to the theater. They're not afraid.
No, you're totally right. And it is like the experience, as much as, modern home theaters and everything is cool, but that watching a movie with an audience, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
I hope it doesn't go away. I don't know. I honestly, as home theaters get better, and also as we've discussed too, I think COVID kind of accelerated that reluctance to go to the theater. I mean, God, man, there are a ton of movies right now that I want to see, but then again, it's like, well, and I'm by myself. I'm not even taking somebody else. But $15 to $20 to see a movie. It's like, right, as opposed to a month of streaming.
Not to mention, food, parking. It's not cheap.
No, and a family of four, forget about it, man.
Oh,
it's
God.
$100.
Yeah,
it's
easy.
Crazy.
Easy.
So yeah, no, I get it, man. 1923, another breakout show that featured some nice nudity and stuff. I forget the woman's name.
Well, yeah, we didn't. we didn't include 1923 in this year's Anatomy Awards because the nudity was so brief. But what's kind of cool is there's Yellowstone, and then 1923, and what is it, 1880? What is it, 1880? Yeah, 1889 or whatever. I mean, it's kind of cool that now all of their everything in the franchise has had nudity, which is pretty cool. But, yeah. Of the three, I'd say the 1923 one has had some nudity. It just didn't make our Anatomy Awards this year.
I understand. Are there some also-rans that you're ready to acknowledge beyond the ones that won, as far as getting votes for the Anatomy Awards?
Oh, that's a great question. You mean like people that we had maybe considered that
didn't get the award, or didn't get an award?
Oh yeah. Well, we it's funny you say that, because what we did this year, which I thought was a great idea, is allow, because in the end I kind of make the final choice of who wins, like best.
You're Bryce Waterhouse, absolutely, man.
Yeah, right. Best lesbian scene, all that. But we did a cool thing where we let people vote, so we also see what the fans voted, and you could see like, for best lesbian scene, we have 4 choices. We chose Alison Brie and Aubrey Plaza and Spin Me Around, but there's other great ones you could choose from. There's best full frontal. We chose Cortland Cannon and Swimming with the Sharks, but there was a great full frontal scene in Minx. There was Euphoria had full frontal nudity that didn't win our award, but it was really cool. So yeah, there's a way, if people at the bottom of the page can do their own voting, if you want to see some things that maybe I didn't choose as the best, but you may think is the best, and you could go ahead and vote for free, which is pretty fun.
That's great, man. And also, you provide it, if not daily content, almost daily, as far as somebody that, either somebody from the past or acknowledging some current nudity and stuff. I mean, that is something.
Yeah. And with our voting, John, we allow early voting. We allow mail-in voting. We allow, you don't even have to have, well, you have to be over 18. Other than that, that's our only rule. So
there you go, man. Absolutely. Very American. I love it. That's fantastic.
We do not try to keep the voter down. So in fact, we try to keep the voter up, if you get my drift. So
Lizzo also had a very big year, and rightfully so, and I'm really glad she's on your list. That's amazing.
Yeah, listen, she won our best BBW nude scene for Lizzo, Love Lizzo, which was an HBO Max doc, and she's filming album cover shoot for Special, her album. And actresses, just like a 60-year-old doing a nude scene is rare. An actress that's kind of big-bodied like Lizzo, that's not a common thing. And listen, from the day I started MrSkin.com, I had a rule that I don't care who does a nude scene. If it's a celebrity and they're over 18 and they do a nude scene, we're always going to celebrate it, because somewhere out there's a guy that his favorite nude scene of the year is Lizzo. And why would I rain on the parade and say, oh, she's not, thin or whatever. So for 24 years, it's about, we're just so happy someone does a nude scene. So I was happy to celebrate the best BBW scene, which was Lizzo this year from her HBO doc.
I don't blame you, man. Did you screen cap back in the day or show clips from, and now I'm blanking on the name of the movie.
Kathy Bates About Schmidt.
You read my mind. Very good, Jim. Absolutely. Yes.
It's not very difficult to read your mind, just so you know.
It's basically a cereal box back.
There's a perfect example of why you couldn't be Mr. Skin, because you can't sit and we can't wait on you for 5 minutes till you come up with the answer to the question. So just remember that.
Hey, man, give me some cred. I impressed you with Carlo, and as we were saying off the air, I'm like, I got no Barbara Boucher to talk about this time and stuff.
That's awesome.
So, hey, did you guys get the Emmanuel box set of all the Emmanuel movies and everything?
The answer to your question is, I think so. And the only reason I say I think so is because you're talking to me from the Skin offices, but unfortunately, only me and one other guy usually come into the office. Our other 40 some employees all work remotely, and I'm pretty sure it's not physically here in the office, but I'm pretty sure our content team has it, because we already went through it. I assume someone has it at their house. So.
I just wondered if you had a chance to watch it, and if there were any interesting, behind the scenes special features.
Well, I haven't watched the action. I've seen all the Emmanuel movies. Don't kid yourself. I haven't been able to peruse the box set, no pun intended. So I will keep you posted when I get my hands on it.
All right, Skid, that is so a content clip that you've got to make, man. Is that like an explore the Emmanuel box set, and if there's any good special features? But also, man, I was so bummed when Richard Belzer passed away a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But of course, my thoughts went to Mrs. Belzer, and I forget her.
Arlie McBride.
Arlie McBride, and take it from there, Skin. One of our favorites from the '80s growing up.
Well, if you were, if you were like me and a crazy fan of cable television from the early '80s on, when I got my Betamax and cable TV when I lived in Oak Park River Forest as a youngster, one of the real popular movies when I first started watching and went from ABC, CBS, and NBC with no nudity to all of a sudden having HBO, Cinemax, and Showtime, and getting like drive-in movies, blaxploitation films, Italian sex comedies, British sex farces. One of the movies I'll never forget is a movie called Young Lady Chatterley, which starred this actress named Harley McBride, who would later go on to be Mrs. Richard Belzer. And I'll never forget those movies. She was gorgeous. She was so naked. There was so much nudity. And yeah, she did stuff throughout the 70s and 80s. They did a Young Lady Chatterley 2 in 1985. And it's just, she's like one of my special, fantasies from the early days of cable television.
That the original Young Lady Chatterley is for free, everybody, on the Internet Archive. So you can,
is it? Okay, cool.
You can find it there. I mean, not the highest quality, but it's good enough. It's certainly good enough for a YouTube sort of presentation. But again, it's on the Internet Archive over there. Crazy.
Wow, that's pretty cool. But yeah, it just brings back so many great memories from when I would tape these movies, and God, you just and plus, a lot of these movies would air over and over. So that movie came out in 1977, the original. I got cable TV in 1980. So literally for 5 years, I must have saw that movie, at least bits and pieces of it, I don't even know how many times, but
no, you're right, man. Yeah. I mean, no, that was the great thing about Cinemax and Showtime. They would show these, even HBO would show more wide release movies that had nudity. But oh no, man, you're right. And again, the Emmanuel movies, come to mind. A lot of Sybil Danning product comes to mind, as you feature in your fine documentary Skin, which is still right now at Hulu. And I know
Skin: A History of Nudity in Film. Yeah, a history of nudity in the movies. But the what's really cool now is we had it with Hulu for 2 years. It's still at Hulu, and by the way, it's one of their most downloaded movies. Which is awesome. It's now available at all the free, the Tubies of the world and all those other free places, and it is killing it at those spots, which we kind of figured it would. It's free, but you have to, suffer through some commercials. But if you want to just go to Amazon or Hulu or whatever, it's still at all those other places where you don't have to have commercials. But it's really doing well, and hopefully I'll make all my money back at some point. So
I'm rooting for you, Jim. Honestly, it is such a great movie. I'm always happy to bring it up, and I tell friends all the time that they would really love it because of the entertainment value beyond the obvious of seeing all those great moments in nudity over the century.
Yeah, no, I think I really am proud of that documentary, and I produced it with Paul Fishbein, who founded AVN. And
oh wow,
we're looking to we'll see what happens, but we're working on a sequel. We'll see. But we're really happy how it's doing it. A funny story. I was just in LA yesterday. I flew there for one day because a company's doing a documentary on celebrity sex tapes, and they wanted to get my opinion as a talking head. So anyway, I went and did that. So I'm looking forward. You will be seeing an 8-part doc in I don't know when it's going to come out, but within the next year or so. And that's pretty cool. So we'll see what happens.
That's great, man. Well, we stay in contact, so hopefully more information on that.
Yeah.
When we speak next. I know you got to go, so I'm gonna let you go. But as always, Jim, truly, I always appreciate talking to you. And beyond the obvious, everybody, the 24th annual Anatomy Awards at Mr. Skin now. It's free. You don't need to subscribe. But hey, man, Mr. Skin has been there for you since 1999.
And I'm a local Chicago product, so
damn right, absolutely, man, and truly an internet pioneer. And every generation of I think kids discovering their sexuality really appreciate the content at Mr. Skin. And I'm glad you're still doing it.
I love talking to you, John, because you know current stuff, but more importantly, you know the stuff that means the most to me from back in the day, and I always appreciate that.
Well, and I was going to mention, as we talked about Tubi and Skin being on Tubi, there's a lot of those 80s, Cinemax and Showtime movies. That are right there, there.
Yeah, a lot of memories, man.
As always, Skin, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot for talking.
You're awesome, John.
Yeah, can't wait till we catch up next time. So thanks a lot.
You got it, sir. Take care.
You too, buddy. Mr.
Bye.
Skin, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm talking tomorrow night to Brian Michael Bendis about some new stuff. I hope you'll join us for that on the next edition of Word Balloon Live. Setting some stuff up for next week as well. And another person's going to do a daytime talk with me, Ram V, on Friday. Looking forward to talking to Ram about Detective Comics and a whole lot more that he's doing for DC, and also create our own stuff as well. So look forward to that. That's all coming up this week on Word Balloon Live. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.